Chris Harrison and Lauren Zima coming to you from the home office in Austin, Texas. LZ, today we are going to start and end with what kept us up last night.
Yes, what kept us up last night is kind of a big question this time. Usually it's a little more casual, but what kept us up last night was, should we be drinking as much as we are? Should we be drinking at all? Which makes it sound like we have a problem. And I hope we don't. I don't think we do.
Admitting it is the first step to recovery.
Listen, I mean, we're very social people. We go to a lot of events here in Austin. There's always a charity gala or a movie premiere, South by Southwest, ACL, happy hours, and birthday parties with friends. And I think before you know it, we were kind of looking at our past week, and it's been a busy week, but we drank a little bit every day. Honestly, I probably had one drink every single day because we're at these different events. And so you kind of look and say, wait, is this too much? Is this okay? What was going through your mind as we were first talking about it?
Well, a couple things prompted this too. Is there is this push now for trying sobriety, basically.
I see mocktails on every menu now,
Yeah.
which I think is great. Listen, we both have people in our lives, people we're close to who deal with addiction, who have dealt with addiction. I love bringing that onto a menu in a way because I know for people who we know with addiction who we've talked to, a huge part of the struggle for them is just the social part. Like they don't feel normal being out and about and having to not be able to order drinks, basically.
Well, and what we've seen too are several studies and several things showing that wine producing in Napa Valley is down considerably, and people are plowing up vineyards and putting in different crops because the sales are down. Bar sales are down. Now in Austin, Texas, in some of these cities, they're actually up post-pandemic.
Yeah.
But New York City, I was reading an article yesterday about Jean-Georges, one of the great chefs, and how in his restaurants and in many bars and restaurants throughout New York City, which is a traditional cocktail happy hour place, mocktails are on the menu and they're a very big thing. But I would also like to think about what's in a mocktail.
Oh,
How many grams of sugar and how
right.
bad is the sugar when
Mm-hmm.
you're getting, up to 50 grams of sugar in a mocktail? Is that any better or worse than
A glass of wine.
or like a very nice tequila that is additive free and doesn't have the same types of
Well, yeah,
sugars,
your go-to drink is tequila, soda, and just one slice of an orange.
or red wine,
Mhm.
which also there's been several studies about those benefits. So we're bringing on a heavy hitter in a little bit. We're going to dive into this, but this is what got us thinking is that, yeah, what are the other benefits socially? And you and I have talked about this, about meeting your spouse, going out to a happy hour, or there's a religious aspect. Since the beginning of time, wine has always been a part of, well, the Last Supper, water to wine. Everybody recently, many celebrated Seder service and Passover. It's celebrated around cups of wine. So there are historical
This is a
things that we
really
have
big
to,
topic.
yeah, it's a
It
huge
is,
topic.
and I think that's why we wanna bring in someone who has better answers to these questions than we could ever give you. He is a psychiatrist. He is the founder of Amen Clinics. He's who we know is the foremost brain expert. We've interviewed him before, and he is the head of what he's calling the brain health revolution. So let's bring on a man who knows more about the brain than anyone you're gonna come across, Dr. Amen. Dr. Amen, welcome and thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. This is such an important topic.
Dr. Amen, as we were just talking, was there anything we were saying that was setting off alarm bells for you?
It's just part of so many people's lives, and they just don't know it's a neurotoxin. And I've known it. I've looked at the brain for the last 35 years. And one of the first things I learned is alcohol makes your brain look older than you are. And I often show people a healthy brain and then their brain on alcohol. And many people stop because when you realize your brain is involved in everything you do, how you think, how you feel, how you act, how you get along with other people, it's like, well, why would you hurt it? And I felt like for many years, because my first clinic was right outside the Napa Valley. And so I'm
Ground
like,
zero.
I'm seeing people who own wineries. Um, But then 4 years ago, the American Cancer Society helped me so much because they actually came out against any alcohol, because any alcohol is associated with an increased risk of 7 different types of cancer. And that's helpful because if you don't love your brain, hopefully you love your life. The real question becomes, what do you really want? When I think about what I want energy, I want memory, I want focus, I want passion, I want purpose. And alcohol doesn't fit one of those. When you think about, well, what do you really want at the end of the day?
I knew Dr. Amen was gonna come in and just drop the bombs on us. That's how he is. It's no holds barred. The truth is coming at you. Dr. Amen, we're gonna go to a quick break, and then we're gonna come back with you for the specific questions.
Yeah, well, one of the questions, brain lesions. Those don't sound great. But Dr. Amen says if you drink in up to 8 cocktails a week, you have a 60% chance of getting brain lesions. We're going to find out what that is. And what about California sober? Is that a thing? All that when we come back. Welcome back to Through the Drama. LZ and I are talking to Dr. Amen, foremost brain expert, psychiatrist, board certified, New York Times bestselling author. We could go on and on. Dr. Amen, we're talking about the effects of alcohol. And one thing that I just saw on your social media is that you said 8 or more drinks a week increase a risk of brain lesions by 60%. I'm not a doctor, but brain lesions don't sound
What
great.
is a lesion in the brain?
Well, they're not great. They're areas of abnormal structure. So it actually is not just hurting function. If you think of white matter, the nerve cell tracks in the brain, or just think of them as the freeways or the highways in the brain, it's like they get blown up a little bit and you're getting potholes in the brain. They found this even with a little bit of drinking. When they compared people who didn't drink with people who just drank a little bit, they found increased lesions in the brain. But that's just not something you want. And I worry, or part of my goal for the brain health revolution is to get people to love their brain. I have a fun term I like called brain envy. I often say Freud was wrong. Penis envy is not the cause of anybody's problem. I've not seen it once in 40 years. What I want you to want better is your brain, because when your brain works right, everything in your life is better. And as a psychiatrist for now 45 years, there's not a week that goes by that either someone I know personally or one of my patients, there's a disaster in their life directly related to alcohol, whether it's a bad fight or an affair, or alcohol takes the brake off your frontal lobes. So your frontal lobes help you stop saying things you shouldn't say or doing things you shouldn't do. And alcohol lowers the brake, so you're just more likely to get in trouble.
Now, if I'm going to play devil's advocate, because we got to push back here to play this game, what about moderation? I'm a big fan of all things in moderation, exercise included, eating, all along the way. What about moderation and the fact that there are studies out there, just to play devil's advocate, tequila, for example, with healthy bacteria and actually simulate metabolism, and red wine contributing to gut diversity and reduction of LDL cholesterol. Is it a zero-sum game, is I guess what I'm asking, or is there a world in which, okay, a glass of wine
Yeah,
is
and
not
if
the
I
worst
can
thing?
add one example to that question, Dr. Amen, I don't know if you've watched The Blue Zone, that documentary on Netflix about the different zones in the
Uh-huh.
world. Yeah, where people live healthily into their hundreds. And they address alcohol a little bit in there, and they talk about the community in Greece where people are making their own wine and they drink wine every single day and they're healthy well into their hundreds. And they talk about, is the advantage there that alcohol brings community and you're sharing a family dinner. So, how are those people drinking wine every day but living healthily into their hundreds, to the Chris's moderation point?
Well, they're drinking a little bit of wine, and they're doing a lot of other things, especially exercise. Right. Let's talk about moderation. I believe it is the gateway thought to hell because as soon as you say moderation, it means you're going to drink. As soon as you say moderation with dessert, you're going to have dessert. What I've seen as I try to get people well, that's the thought that gets them off the rails. Now, if you have a drink or two a week, it's not a big deal. But we just said if you have a drink every day, you clearly can see damage in your brain. And I always want to go back to what do you want
Mhm.
really? And if you want a healthy brain that stays with you into your 90s, it's probably a good idea to drink a little bit or not at all.
So, what about the Bible? What about how ingrained in us wine and alcohol are from the beginning?
Yeah, it's not only ingrained in our culture, it's ingrained in many
Religion,
religions,
yeah.
yes.
Well, actually, not that much. And the Bible does caution against drinking a lot if you read the book of Proverbs. But the first story is after the flood. Noah plants a vineyard, gets drunk. His children find him naked. And when I was growing up, my parents drank, not very much, and it was never a problem. When I got married, I was a second year medical student to my childhood sweetheart. Um, 2 months later, she tried to kill herself. And I'm like, all right, what's going on? And it wasn't me. I wasn't a bad husband. But it turned out she came from a severely abusive alcoholic home. And I actually never knew that. She hid that because of the shame. And so I spent the next couple of years studying children and grandchildren of alcoholics.
Mm.
And it's not a small problem. There are 30 million children and grandchildren of alcoholics. And so, this is deeply personal to me because I see the generational fallout of people who think alcohol's a health food. And I'm like, well, I've seen it devastate people's lives. And then if you take that and mix it with, I look at people's brains every day. I published the world's largest imaging study on 62,000 scans. And what we found is alcohol prematurely aged the brain. But what surprised us, because you mentioned California sober, is marijuana was actually worse.
You know, Dr. Amen, when we're talking about alcohol and the effects on the brain, I know sugar can be as bad, if not worse. And the move to mocktails, having a soda, doing something, an alternative drink, a soda can have up to 76 grams of sugar. Most mocktails are 18 to 22 grams. A lot of the pre-made stuff you're getting in the store is 49 grams. And again, you're not going to have one. You're probably going to have two or three. So, is 200 grams of sugar better than having a clean tequila or a glass of wine?
Well, neither are good. And
So
I
what do we
would,
do?
so neither are good. We just have to be more thoughtful that if you get sparkling water with lime, you can make a healthy mocktail. But you're absolutely correct that substituting a whole bunch of sugar, which is going to increase the risk of being overweight and diabetic, well, those things are clearly bad for your brain. And, I came up with a long time ago, this acronym, Bright Minds. You want to keep your brain healthy or rescue it. You have to prevent or treat the 11 major risk factors that steal your mind. And I think you have a graphic
Mhm.
of it. And I talked about how alcohol damages every one of the 11 risk factors from Bright Mind. So B is for blood flow. Alcohol lowers blood flow. R is retirement and aging. It prematurely ages your brain. It increases brain inflammation. It alters your genes. That's for genetics, increases your risk of head trauma in so many ways. It's a known toxin, right? It's not like we don't know this
Right.
when we look at brains, and it hurts your liver, and your liver's major job is to detoxify you. Um, Clearly increases the risk of depression and dementia. It alters immune function. It changes your hormones.
So maybe mocktails aren't the answer, but a lot of people in California are saying that maybe hitting the vape pen or edibles are the answer. When we come back, we're going to talk, is California sober a thing? We'll get Dr. Amon's take right after this.
We're back with whether sober curious is going to lead you down, to use Dr. Amon's phrase, the gateway to hell. I love that. Um, Dr. Amon, so, we lived in California a long time. There's this phrase, California sober, which is sort of a newer phrase, but it means you don't drink alcohol, but you do smoke weed. Marijuana is legal in more places now than it's ever been. And we know a lot of people who are like, oh, I've pulled back on alcohol. I think especially after the pandemic, people said, I drank so much in the pandemic, so I've pulled back. But now, well, their answer is they're kind of microdosing all day, or they're, smoking weed every night to help them fall asleep. And I'm just wondering, how much difference does that make? You mentioned that marijuana you think is worse than alcohol.
Well, that's what our studies show. I mean, neither is good. Um, so I would recommend you avoid both. Um, yeah, they actually looked at smokers versus people who smoked marijuana, and their lungs were worse
Oh, wow.
in the marijuana group.
Wow.
So brains are worse, lungs are worse, and I worry because Chris, like you said, well, is an alcohol a health food? The answer is absolutely not. Well, isn't marijuana innocuous? Absolutely not. And now we're going to see it with psilocybin. Psilocybin's the next where,
Mhm.
oh, it treats depression, it treats PTSD. It's innocuous. Absolutely not. And because of these messaging, Anheuser-Busch last year spent $6.8 billion on sales and marketing.
Wow.
It's a war
Yeah.
against us. And with that, we are in this mental health mess unlike anything we have ever seen. With 46% of teenagers have some form of mental illness, 21% of teenagers, it's severe. 57% of teenage girls report being persistently sad.
Yeah. Mental
Depression's
health,
the number.
suicide is off the charts. And so, Dr. Amen, it seems like two things can't be correct at the same time in this. We seem to be doing more and more about mental health, and it seems to be getting worse and worse. Why the more that we put our finger on this scale, is it getting worse?
Because we're working on the wrong paradigm. Right. I mean, we're fussing about is alcohol good for you or not. What we're really not talking about. See, I think we need to throw out the term mental illness
Mhm.
and call them what they really are, brain health issues. And if so, I'm working on a national brain health initiative. If we love and care for our brains, then we're not arguing about moderation. We're like, well, why would you moderately hurt anything? It's let's love our brains, take care of our brains, because then you have what you really want: energy, memory, passion, purpose.
Dr. Amon, can I ask a hopeful question? Well, you mentioned the brain lesions and, alcohol is just bad. So if somebody is listening to this podcast and they think, oh, today I want to make a change, will your brain heal if you've done damage to it? Is that damage permanent from alcohol damage? Like, what does the future look like if somebody wants to make a change today?
Well, I gave you guys a poster, and I love this poster so much. It's actually one of my favorite patients. I can't tell you who it is, but he came to me 10 years ago, and he was drinking way too much. In fact, had like 800 expensive bottles of wine in the cellar. So for me trying to sell him to stop was hard. So I showed him a poster and I put a healthy brain. And then I put his, says now pending disaster. His brain looked way older than he did. And then I put, if you stop, because, the sooner you do this, the better. But if you stop and you do the right things, your brain can get better. But if you don't stop, this is what your brain is going to look like 10 years from now. And I scared him. And he stopped, and he is at the peak of his career 10 years later.
Wow.
And his brain is better.
Well,
And
Dr.
that's
Amen.
really the question. Which brain do you want?
Yeah. Well, Dr. Amen, we could go on and on talking about the brain. You are brilliant at it, and the way you help us digest this is fascinating. So thank you so much for your time. We will do it again.
Everybody follow Dr. Amen on social media. He posts tips about brain health, parenting, mental health constantly. Thank you, Dr. Amen, and we can't wait to see what you do for all of our brains from
And
here.
thank you for being with us. We will see you again next time because we got a lot of drama to get through.